Avatar Fire and Ash review: the best, most emotional Avatar yet. With all the talk of how little cultural impact the Avatar series has had, they still turn out to be massive blockbusters, true event films. And we should expect nothing different with Avatar Fire and Ash. Sure, parts of it might feel like additional footage from The Way of Water, edited into its own movie. But Cameron infuses so much heavy emotion and personal stakes into this third entry, he managed to give fans the best Avatar yet. What is Avatar Fire and Ash about? Taking place shortly after the end of The Way of Water, Fire and Ash finds Jake Sully, Sam Worthington, Neytiri, Zoe Saldana, and their family are still grieving after the death of Netayam, killed during the battle with the invading RDA. Their mourning is cut short, however, when they are faced with a new threat, this time from Pandora natives. The Manquin, or Ash people, attack them while on a journey with the Tilalam clan, the Wind Traders. The threat only gets worse as the Ash people form an alliance with Quaritch, Stephen Lang, and the Resources Development Administration, RDA. The Sully family, along with their newfound family, the Metkina Reef clan, must once again prepare for another fight for their lives and for the future of Pandora. Avatar Fire and Ash review: if you followed early reactions from preview screenings, you likely saw several mentions of the fact that Fire and Ash feels and looks very similar to its predecessor, The Way of Water. Similar story beats, similar setting, similar stakes. And on the surface, those complaints aren't wrong, but if you look just a bit deeper, it makes sense. No one has ever accused James Cameron of being subtle when it comes to the messaging and themes in his Avatar movies. Whether it's environmentalism, colonialism, war, family relations, the commentary is fairly by the numbers. But it's consistent, and Cameron clearly wants to hammer these points home to the audience. And part of what he wants to convey is that these cycles keep repeating. War keeps happening. We, the collective we, keep harming the environment. The rich and powerful will always try to become richer and more powerful. Are these worthy themes to focus on? Sure they are. Does it make for the most exciting movie when a decent chunk of it feels like a rehash of the one that came before it? At times, yes. But hey, this is still James Cameron we're talking about here. You never doubt Big Jim. Even with a less-than-story, Avatar, Fire and Ash still manages to be the best of the trilogy. The biggest reason for that is the collection of characters and their individual arcs. This is what most interests me. Jake and Neytiri and their family and the rest of the Na'vi are fighting for their lives with the fate of all of Pandora at stake. It's about as large-scale as you can get. And yet, Cameron and co-writers Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver find a way to weave in personal and emotional journeys for every major character, with it all tying back into the larger plot. And this is likely what will make or break Fire and Ash for audiences. Thankfully, this is the best character work in the series by far, and it starts with the Sully family. Everyone is grieving Netayam, but nobody really knows how to process it and move forward. Jake is still influenced by being a former human and marine, which clashes with Neytiri's more traditional Na'vi way of processing grief. Jake's actions also make it difficult for Locke Britton Dalton, who feels personally responsible for Netayam's death. Realistically, Locke is still just a kid. He feels like he let down his family, specifically his father, in the worst possible way. All he wants to do is prove himself to his father. There's a really effective father-son story woven into everything else going on. It's all a very human experience. Neytiri has the most complex feelings about all this. She hates the Sky People, but her husband used to be one. Her kids have human DNA running through their blood. How does she reconcile that fact? That brings us to Kiri, Sigourney Weaver, Jake and Neytiri's adopted daughter. She desperately wants to know more about her birth, her father, her connection to Iowa. She has such strong faith in Iowa, which stands in stark contrast to the Ash people. It's again a pretty simple and straightforward exploration of faith and religion. Some see hardship and run to God, in this case Iowa, for answers. Others see it and lose their faith, like Varang and her people. But with so much emotion behind Kiri's and the Ash people's stories, it makes up for the mostly surface-level examination. Led by Varang Una chaplains, the Ash people have gone through incredible hardship, with their home having been destroyed by a volcanic eruption. They prayed to Iowa, begging for her help. But when nothing happened to stop the destruction, they turned their backs on her, choosing to live in open rejection and resentment of her. We learned that historically they were more hostile than other Na'vi clans, but this was the final nail. While we see there is tension and conflict between other clans, the actions of the Ash people are the first time we see open aggression from one clan against others. The Ash people as a whole, and Varang in particular, are the most interesting additions to the Avatar world. In a story whose broad strokes feel so familiar, their inclusion is everything. Their continuing conflicts with the other Na'vi clans in the fourth and/or fifth installments would be more than welcome. By having the Ash people ally with Quaritch, Cameron can also explore a new side of the Colonel. Stuck in his Na'vi form as an Avatar recombinant, Quaritch starts the movie still firmly on the human and RDA's side. But his partnership with Varang makes him reconsider the way things are and what his life has now become. It's the most interesting version of Quaritch yet. His inclusion in the Way of Water felt forced and uninspired, but now it was worth it for how Fire and Ash further develops him. Unfortunately, we can't talk about Quaritch without talking about Spider, Jack Champion. If you thought Spider was a divisive character when The Way of Water came out, just you wait. Spider is a bad character. He's written poorly. Champion is bad in the role, being out-acted to almost hilarious levels in nearly every scene. If he were a minor character, it might be easy to write off, but he is a central focus in Fire and Ash. For some, this might derail any goodwill. But with all the other characters being so rich and fully developed, the Spider of it all can be overlooked to a degree. At 197 minutes, Cameron uses the time wisely. Where The Way of Water meandered a little too much, Fire and Ash is much more purposeful with every minute. There are so many storylines, both separate and interconnecting, but you're never confused about what is happening. Fire and Ash employed a 6-person editing team: Stephen Rivkin, David Brenner, Nicolas de Toth, John Refoy, Jason Gaudio, and Cameron, and they had their work cut for them. The result is beyond impressive, making a movie with so much happening so easy to follow and feel so crisp and quick, despite the long runtime. And finally, of course, this is James Cameron. This is Avatar, so you know it's going to look and sound as good as, if not better than, any other movie out there. That's been a hallmark of the series. Even those who have been more lukewarm on the series or outright dislike it will admit the visual effects and production design are second to none. And that continues with Fire and Ash. Pandora is as gorgeous as ever. Even though we aren't introduced to much new, at least compared to The Way of Water, it's still a visual treat coming back to this world. The fights and battles are epic. The sound and score are great. From a technical standpoint, it's everything we've come to expect from Cameron. Is Avatar, Fire and Ash worth watching? While the broad story beats might feel too familiar, Cameron and company make Avatar, Fire and Ash the most emotional entry in the series. Combined with the expected visual feast and next-level production value, it's also the best in the series to date. It's hard to give a blanket recommendation for any third movie in a franchise. But if you were even mildly entertained by Avatar and The Way of Water, then Fire and Ash is a must-see. The usual suggestions follow: that it must be seen on the biggest screen you can find, even find a 3D showing. Not every movie is as enhanced as the next by being seen in the theater, and even fewer are worth seeing in 3D, but that's the James Cameron difference. The Avatar movies are the only movies where I would actively seek out a 3D showing. Movies like Fire and Ash are what the theaters are for. Avatar, Fire and Ash opens in theaters December 19th.